You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast where we crack the case of Scooby-Doo level plots against America.
We are Scooby-Dooing it.
We're Scooby-Don'ting it. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Trump indictment. I know everybody who's in political media is talking about the Trump indictment. I don't know if people outside of political media or...
I feel like they have bigger fish to fry.
Like their backyard being 110 degrees.
Exactly.
You know, bigger fish
Droughts,
to avoid.
floods, you name it.
Yeah.
Bigger things going on.
Other things going on that are more directly impactful to their everyday life. But this is really important to American history. And it means that Donald Trump 2024's, like, the Republican Party platform is basically Donald Trump shouldn't go to jail.
That's all it is.
That's the entire political platform. It's the entire political platform. Yesterday, Tuesday, when the indictment came down, which thank you for that.
Yeah, we didn't get Wednesday.
We didn't get Wednesday. Thank you for that. I came up with a list of indictment-related puns that I think maybe we could...
I am ready.
Okay.
Pun away.
Affidavit and confused. Because it's like summer, and Dazed and Confused is kind of a
Obviously.
summer movie. This one I actually wrote down before I saw the title of Wednesday's What a Day. Do the indict thing. Because it's hot.
Nonstop, Erin.
Court fun in the summertime.
Yeah, I love that one.
Okay. Oh, those summer indicts.
I love that one, too.
Okay. Summer of 69 federal charges.
Now we know it's more.
Not 78. Oh, God, such
sad. So good.
So many. Have you ever seen The Arraigned?
So that one really takes my breath away.
Okay, good. Okay, I was also picturing like a movie poster, right? And there's like a large man swimming in the water. And below the large man, you see like Jack Smith's giant head coming up.
Like Jaws, you mean?
Yes, except it says laws.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yep, that's really stupid, but I could art direct political cartoons.
It's not stupid though. It is apropos of the news.
Yep, for everything there is a treason.
Yes.
Sorry, I can't stop. Okay, Alyssa, my first and perhaps the most important question about Donald Trump's indictment is, what do you think Liz Cheney is doing right now?
You know, what do you think Liz is doing? I feel like she's having a margarita.
Yeah.
I think she's having a margarita.
I think she had one of her servants make her a margarita.
That's probably correct.
Yeah.
But I think, the work has paid off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, she's out of a job.
I mean, does she need a job?
No.
I feel like someone as rich as Liz Cheney having a job is just taking work away from people who need...
No, she's just, there's a little villain laugh. Her feet are up. She's having a margarita.
Yeah.
And she's enjoying that this is probably these series of indictments that have made Trump actually sweat.
I picture the Cheney family lair, because it's a lair.
Yeah.
I picture it to look like the bar where Gaston sings that song in Beauty and the Beast. Like the walls are covered with taxidermy, and it's in like Wyoming. It's one of those like cosplay rich people.
Oh, I think that's entirely true. I mean, the documentary about Cheney was called The Angler. I mean, it was all about fish and mounting fish on the wall.
Yeah, but he didn't.
He didn't catch.
They pretend.
He might have caught him.
They pretend to hunt and fish. It's like drag for rich people. They pretend that they're blue collar. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what's going on. I was watching some coverage of the indictment on a cable news channel.
Did it make you cringe?
Extremely cringe. I'm not going to name it, but I was watching some of the coverage, and one of the people suggested that it was imperative that TV cameras be allowed in the courtroom. What do you make of that?
Exhausting. Do we really need to give a man who has built his entire life and a vast part of his empire around produced television?
Don't let him on TV.
Aren't we just giving him the stage that he so wants?
Don't put him on TV.
What is the upside? Either he is a martyr to his followers, or he's a hero. There is no upside for the rest of us.
Right. There's absolutely no way that they would watch him on TV and think it was anything but badass. And to see him 100%. On TV every day, I think would be... Here's what they should do. They should hire a really mean courthouse artist.
Yes.
That's the way.
That's it.
I mean, report on it.
Pump those pictures out. Let us just do it all as like a cartoon, which is what he is.
Exactly. I think they should report on the trial. We should hear from what happens inside the courtroom, but cameras inside the courtroom.
No, ma'am.
Have we learned no lessons?
None.
Stop letting him be on
Don't
TV.
give him a microphone or a camera.
It will not. You can't. You can't be defeated by giving him his favorite weapon.
It literally makes him stronger.
Yeah, don't do it. So, that's all I think we have to say about.
Yeah, that's it. A lot of indictments.
A lot of indictments. I want to talk a little bit about the Midwest.
We're loving the Midwest.
We're loving the Midwest. I think that a lot of people who live in the Midwest, I think it's easy to get discouraged in a lot of these places, like Ohio, Wisconsin, even, Michigan, whatever.
Right.
But there's actually, what's happening in the Midwest right now in certain Midwestern states kind of shows that if you just stick around, have some tenacity, work your ass off.
Some
gumption, elbow grease, then you can come out on top. Like Ohio.
God bless.
I have said
Keep on keeping on,
I've
Ohio.
said mean things about Ohio.
I mean, look, as a former Badger, I had a T-shirt that said, "Oh, how I hate Ohio State."
Yeah, well, that's a thing that you're supposed to say.
That's what we did. But we're here to say, yay, Buckeyes.
Ohio is really kind of an upside surprise in the post-Dobbs landscape. So this summer and fall, there's 2 important elections that could lead to voters enshrining abortion rights in the state. As it stands right now, abortions in Ohio are legal up to 22 weeks, which is actually, it puts it ahead of a lot of states where there's a lot more restrictions. This November, there is a measure on the ballot that would make it a constitutionally guaranteed right for Ohioans to access abortion up to the point of viability and past the point of viability if the doctor who's treating the patient determines that it's necessary to preserve her life and health.
Right.
But because the polling on that looked really good, and because they submitted almost twice as many signatures as they needed to get it on the ballot, the Secretary of State just was like, "Yep, it's on the ballot." There is another measure that Republicans have snuck in that would essentially kneecap the power of Ohio voters to change their state constitution, and that is State Issue 1, which voters will decide on August 8th, which is next week. So in that special election, voting yes on Issue 1 will make it so it's more difficult for voters to make changes in the way that their state is run. Voting no means that they still retain power. I don't know why, as a voter, you would be like, you know what? Don't let me do as much stuff.
Well, it's pretty interesting because, Erin, the jiggery-pokery never stops. And so State Issue 1 would require 60% support, up from 50% plus 1 for an issue, which is funny because I think if you read the news closely, you see that the enshrining abortion has a favorability of 57%. What do you think about that?
That's interesting.
You think the Republicans read some polls?
It seems like maybe they did. It seems like maybe they did. But I think what's happening in Ohio is something that's really important for people to realize. Right now, early voting is looking great. It's smashing records. The August 8th election, early voting is smashing records. All signs are pointing to the fact that Issue 1 is going to fail.
Right.
Which paves the way for abortion.
I'm knocking on wood right now.
Exactly. It doesn't mean you should vote.
You got to vote.
And tell everyone that you know who lives in Ohio and can legally vote in Ohio
it's
to
like
vote no.
Kansas never forget.
Yeah. Do not forget Kansas. Exactly. Ohio, even a state that is sort of, as red as Ohio, still has a line where voters are like,
too much.
Too much.
Too much. You went too far.
Too much. And so right now, Ohioans are on the cusp of actually enshrining abortion rights in their state, which is more than a lot of people have in the U.S. And it's like, you guys are almost there, and
you can do it.
You can do it. We're with you. Tell us what we can do to help.
Well, Erin, to find out how you can help make sure Ohio voters are informed and ready to vote ahead of the August special election at votesaveamerica.com/Ohio.
Nice. That's a really easy URL to remember.
So easy.
Ooh, you know what? We got to give a shout out to
America's Dairyland.
America's Dairyland.
Erin, Judge Janet. We're so excited today. The ideological majority of the Wisconsin Supreme Court shifted Tuesday when liberal Justice-elect Janet Protasewicz was sworn in at the state capitol to a 10-year term, giving liberals now a 4-3 majority on the court. What?
Yeah, it's exciting.
I mean, we know this. Everything is up for grabs now. They have a number of issues from union rights to redistricting to abortion to election laws that are likely to make their way before the court in the coming months and years. And this is incredible news because this election, which we covered, the most expensive judicial contest in U.S. history, was seen as a referendum on the state's 1849 law, which effectively was banning abortion and was reactivated less than a year beforehand under the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs v. Jackson's Women's Health Organization. What?
Yeah. Yeah,
Judge
so I
Janet.
mean, right now abortion is effectively illegal in Wisconsin. I mean, I know
Yes.
that there are like exceptions, blah, 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 but just effectively it is illegal.
Yes.
Luckily, it is legal in surrounding states, but not everybody who lives in Wisconsin has the ability to travel to surrounding states to obtain abortion care.
Right.
And so that's just that it's not acceptable. No, people in
Nope.
Wisconsin deserve better. I do want to point out that Judge Janet replaced a justice named Pat Rogansack, which is an extreme Patience
Rogansack.
Pat Rogansack, which is it's a terrible name, but it's a very Wisconsin name.
It's a very Wisconsin name, and it is a name that has now been defeated.
I also want to point out that in Protasewicz's election, to the credit of voters in Wisconsin, it was not even like she blew past everybody's expectations.
It was a trouncing.
It was a curb stomping.
Yes, curb stomping, even better.
It was a trouncing, a curb stomping. It was really, really definitive. And Wisconsin is largely seen as one of the most contested states in the country. Yep. In the 2024 election, it will obviously, there's a lot of math that says everything comes down to Wisconsin in 2024. Now, we don't, a lot of things can change.
A lot of things can happen.
We don't know.
This is significant nonetheless, in every way.
Very, very, very important. But not everything in the Midwest is great. We've got, success stories like Wisconsin,
Yep.
which is, step one of several steps that need to unfuck the state. But step one was a big one. We've got Michigan.
Yep.
Great big Gretsch profile.
Big Gretsch making things happen.
Yeah, big profile of her in the New Yorker.
Check it out if you haven't.
Which is sort of like one of those things where it's like, I wonder what she's got planned.
What's Big Gretsch up to?
What's Big Gretsch thinking?
Down the line.
Don't
everybody get mad. Don't everybody get mad.
Michigan people don't get mad. Biden people don't get mad.
Everyone calm down.
Everybody calm down.
But a future that is bright for Big Gretsch is bright for all of us.
Exactly. Michigan flipped everything and is now making historic changes. Minnesota, recreational marijuana. Legal as of August 1st.
So incredible. Also always doing the right things. Minnesota is also expunging records for folks with marijuana-related offenses.
And my brother is a public defender in the state of Minnesota. It's pretty good.
Does he get to go around now and be like, you get expunged, you get expunged?
I'm not sure. I should send him a text message and be like, hey, are you expunging today? How's the expunging?
What's the expungement up to?
Going up in Duluth. How's that going? We also have in Minnesota also passed paid parental leave.
Right.
It's one of the best paid parental leave programs in the country. Minnesota did it with a 1-seat majority. One seat majority, which is super exciting. But not everything is rosy.
No.
In the Middle West, Indiana, after a year-long fight, a near-total abortion ban is going into effect. In Indiana, the ban would prohibit abortions at any point during pregnancy, except if the woman's life or health is at serious risk. And let's point out, just to echo a point that our pal Jess Valenti has made many times, these exceptions don't really exist on like a practical level. They don't really actually exist. Hospitals are shit scared of getting licenses pulled, of getting sued. These exceptions are not in any way exceptions. They are on paper exceptions to make people feel less evil for passing these laws. But
like, see, we're not punitive.
Yeah, but you are. You absolutely are. It's gross. This is a sad lost battle in the state of Indiana, and the law has now taken effect, like for good.
Yes,
which is really unfortunate. Now, in the Upper Midwest, abortion remains illegal in Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, and Ohio. Wisconsin in a few months might
be better.
Flip back. But for now, there's a bunch of states where it's just not legal.
It's not good.
Nope, not good. Illinois, however.
J.B. Pritzker, out there killing it.
The Monopoly Man.
Being an ally. He is the Monopoly Man. We mean that with so much love.
I mean, he's I mean that with like a medium amount of love. I feel like
he is, but I appreciate, he had that commencement speech that went viral. I feel like he's a very thoughtful governor. And in a state that is, borders Indiana, obviously.
And Wisconsin.
And
Iowa.
He's like, here's what we're going to do. Here's like, we're like enshrining everything we can to make sure that people have what they need to live a healthy and happy life.
Yeah, I have to say, if you know an OBGYN or an abortion provider in Illinois, be super nice to them. I think they're really probably over.
Do you know there are only 66 OBGYNs in South Dakota?
What?
66 in the whole state, Erin.
Oh my God. They could all live in that corn palace together. That's how few OBGYNs there are.
It is. They're calling it they're calling this prenatal care deserts.
Oh.
Because in some places it is so far, because most of those 66 are in Rapid City or Sioux Falls. South Dakota is a pretty big state.
It is not a small state.
If you've ever
driven across it, it's not a small state, and it's not close to anything. Like, that's another thing. It's not like, I live pretty far from Rapid City, so I can just like zip on up to Bismarck, North Dakota.
But at the same time, if you were an OBGYN, would you choose to go live in South Dakota?
No. Would you choose to go live in South Dakota by itself?
I mean,
probably not.
Probably not my first pick at the top of all of our favorite Midwest states.
No, and I would say, this is something that advocates have been like warning will happen.
Yep.
There are going to be prenatal care deserts as the environment out there gets less and less habitable to OBGYNs.
Right.
Like, people can't go there for training. Why would they want to? And it's just not going well for people. We said this was going to happen.
We've been telling you.
We've been saying it's going to happen. It's happening in Idaho as well, where they're shutting down units of hospitals that are supposed to help people give birth. So you could be the most pro-life person in the world, and it's still going to like screw you over. It's going to screw your care over. You're screwing everybody over. This is, let's see, what else do we have going on in the Iowa continues to be a bit of a shit show, but there's still a lot of fight going on there.
Yeah, don't count Iowa out.
Don't count Iowa. I'm not counting any.
We're not counting any
of the Midwest out.
Kansas, never forget.
Never forget Kansas. And also, abortion rights are a winning ballot measure.
Yep.
And when you give it to people to vote, they vote to keep abortion rights. They want the government out of their doctor's office.
Between a person and their doctor. That's what abortion should be.
Absolutely. We got a roast.
Oh, God. Erin?
Are we going to have to are we going to use the C word and get in trouble?
We're not using any words because we don't even have to, Erin.
It's implied.
We can state the facts of the case.
It's implied.
Tricia Cotham. Erin, here's a funny one. She, she was a Democrat.
We're talking about North Carolina. Okay.
North Carolina. She was allegedly a Democrat, and then she switched. She became a Republican so she could vote against abortion.
And she gave them a supermajority, right?
Giving them a supermajority. And Erin, guess what? It turns out her middle name is just George Santos because she was recruited by Republicans to run as a Democrat. They tricked. Erin, how is this not fraud? Oh, it is. It is fraud. It is fraud. And she is trying to backpedal. She had very famously in 2015 spoken on the House floor about her own medically necessary abortion for an ectopic pregnancy. She talked about how essential abortion was. Now she says, that wasn't an abortion.
Yes, it was, Tricia.
Well, it was in 2015, Erin. But in 2023, when she wants Tucker Carlson to have her on his Twitter show, she's like, it's not. She's saying she didn't have an abortion. She had a miscarriage.
You did, Tricia.
Which was a spontaneous abortion.
Tricia.
But you know what she wants us to know, Erin? She's still the same person.
An evil bitch. And she is an awful person. The goings on of like, what happened in North Carolina, where basically one person pretending to be a Democrat in time to switch to give Republicans a veto-proof majority, one woman can endanger the rights of everybody who lives in North Carolina. One fucking liar.
By being a fraud.
By being a fucking liar. Okay, one woman can do that. Also, with the Trump indictment, to bring it around full circle.
Oh, please do.
The more we learn about it, the more it's like, this was a Scooby-Doo level plot.
Yes.
And it was almost enough to topple the American experiment. So how good, look, America's fine. I live here.
We live here.
I care about it enough to want to make it better. It has some problems. I think one of the problems is that it was not designed to be strong enough to withstand a fucking Scooby-Doo level plot to overturn the government. It's like, when I was watching coverage of the indictment, they were talking like, oh, this is a very dark day in American history. It is a dark day in American history. I felt like I was watching employees of the haunted amusement park talking about how it was a dark day in the haunted amusement park on the day that we pulled the rubber ghost costumes off, and it turns out it was the cranky neighbor who lived next door. I mean, like, yes, it is a dark day in American history, but it's even darker that our system is so in need of a giant update. It is held together with chewing gum and paper clips.
It should not surprise us that this happened, because George Santos, who probably has 30 passports with different names in his closet, became a member of the U.S. Congress.
But his passports are probably like, my daughter has like a Minnie Mouse purse, and inside her Minnie Mouse purse is like a little fake plastic credit card. That's what they probably look like.
But when you say Scooby-Dooing,
like, oh, that looks right.
When you say Scooby-Dooing, it makes me laugh so hard, because all I think of is Mattson in that episode of Succession yelling at the Roy brothers, be like, what are you, Scooby-Dooing me? You're Scooby-Dooing me right now. And like, honestly, yes, everyone's up to Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
They're Scooby-Dooing.
Zoinks.
Zoinks, Scoob. Yes.
Zoinks, Scoob. It just it doesn't. It feel like we need a top to bottom refresh. We need to fix this, because
we need to bring Scrappy-Doo back. Scrappy-Doo fixed shit.
Scrappy-Doo made it the worst. I think Scrappy-Doo was to Scooby-Doo what Shemp was to the Three Stooges, in that he ruined it.
Okay, fair.
I think that this is a system that was not designed to last as long as it has lasted, with no meaningful updates, and like it took more than 2.5 years to charge like the people responsible for a coup
that happened on television.
The main guy, it happened on TV. We have like this long trail of evidence, and it took 2.5 years. Like, the system is not.
It needs a reboot.
It needs a refresh.
Little Alt-Control-Delete.
It needs a little nip, little tuck. It needs some updating, because, man, imagine if any of this were carried out by people who knew what they were doing. More Scooby-Doo level antics. In Florida, there were some issues with people running for office that had very similar names to Democrats. Do you remember this story? Oh my gosh, it's complete. I'll send it to you. It is like the most basic, a kid came up with this at recess level shit, is capable of like.
I did not remember this at all.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, and we'll put it in our show notes, listeners, because it is. We need
Scooby-Dooing.
There's a lot of problems, and we should not be defeated by a bunch of like disgruntled
cartoons,
neighbors in ghost costumes or werewolf masks or whatever. This is ridiculous. Okay, rant over. Let's take a quick break.
Just a quick one.
When we come back, we've got an interview that will bring us down a notch. Soothe our souls.
Make everything pleasant.
But also make me very hungry.
That too.
So stick around.
Today's guest is native Angelino, pioneering food radio personality of NPR's Southern California KCRW Good Food radio show and podcast, which explores food and how it intersects with every aspect of human life. She's been celebrated by James Beard, and she's done over 6,000 interviews, and says of food and cooking, quote, "It's about creating hospitality in your own life and welcoming people how you are able in the place where you are," which we love. Erin Kleinman, welcome to Hysteria.
Thank you so much. This is such strange pleasure. I don't get interviewed very much.
Oh, well.
I'm always on the other end of the
we have
conversation.
questions for you.
Well,
We've got
awesome.
questions
I
for
hope
you.
I have answers.
All right. So, in 1998, you became the host of Good Food. Why radio? What did you love about radio? And is podcasting as much fun?
So in 1998, I had a restaurant that I opened in 1984 here in LA on Melrose called Angeli, and I was, doing my work. I was really involved with slow food. I was the head of the LA slow food chapter, and so I was occasionally on Good Food, which was originally started with the hosts Mary Sue Milliken and Susan Vinegar of Now Sogolo. And, they were one of the pioneering Food Network personalities, two of the pioneering Food Network personalities. And because their life was like blowing up, they wanted to recede from the radio situation. And the host of the executive producer of the show, Jennifer Farrow, who is now the head of KCRW, asked me if I would step in. And I said, sure. So for like 10 years, I did both jobs, had a restaurant and did the show. Because the arc of me doing the work has been so long, like from the very, very beginning of the internet to now, it's just so different how one puts the show together, the amount of resources we have. Podcasting, I love podcasting. I've always listened to radio. I was one of those kids who grew up listening to NPR during dinner, My mom had it on all the time. And of course, my whole teenage years, music was all about the radio. The radio was how you engaged with music. It wasn't, create your curated Spotify list. Mm-hmm. If you were lucky, somebody handed you a little playlist lovingly put together on a tape. So radio was always a part of my life. And I think it suited me because in the real world, I tended, especially then, to be extremely shy. So radio allowed me to just interact with people one at a time through this amazingly intimate medium where you're in a room, you have these headphones on, the person you're interviewing most of the time isn't even in the room with you, and it allows for a kind of focus and presence in the moment that I just took to, that I guess I really kind of needed in my life because I tend to be ADD and all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Same. We were an NPR house also, and I think I was listening to podcasts before they were podcasts. I would time my Saturdays around Wait, Don't Tell Me.
Car Talk.
It was Car Talk because I lived in Chicago at the time. It was Car Talk, then Wait, Don't Tell Me, then This American Life.
Right.
And I would time my day around it before podcasts existed. So I'm right with you there.
Okay, so Evan, you grew up in the 60s, and you
here in LA,
and you grew up reading cookbooks.
Well, of course. Well, I shouldn't say of course. I was such a nerdy kid, I guess. I mean, I grew up reading. I was a voracious reader because, so super shy. So my life wasn't an extroverted exterior life so much. It was more a life of the mind.
Right.
It would have been nice to learn to move my body a little more, be more fully present in the world. But that voracious reading at a certain point started to center around food because my mother was not a good cook.
Wait, what was her worst dish? Is there anything?
Yes. Well, so it was the 60s. It was a time when convenience food met experimentation with sometimes really unfortunate results. So she once made this chicken dish that was a casserole that involved chicken, rice, some sort of cream of something soup. It must have been celery or mushroom or just chicken, cream of chicken, and a jar of apricot preserves.
Whoa. Whoa.
What more can one say?
I mean, I can't imagine what that felt like on your palate.
The texture.
Yeah, the texture.
The texture feels, it needs like a little crunch,
Yeah,
right? I
it
feel like
Well,
that
I
dish
think
needed
the
some crunch.
rice sometimes had unexpected crunch
Oh my gosh.
on the top layer. And she never, ever made dessert. I mean, dessert in our house was, these gallons of supermarket ice cream that would stay in the freezer and would get super icy. So I taught myself how to make cookies.
Right.
And then I realized reading cookbooks that it was a way, just like novels are, it was a way into the larger world. And I was just completely fascinated by, the 19th century world of hospitality and dining and all of the elaborate tablescapes. And I mean, I grew up, I once asked my mother if we were poor, and she said, "No, we're not poor. We just don't have any money." So, single, female child,
Right.
single parent, mom. And yeah, so it was a way for me to just see these other worlds, and especially cookbooks that came from other places in the world. And it wasn't even so much the food or the recipes that intrigued me. It was the introductory materials and the head notes, the little bits that start each recipe, the stories. And so I think I learned really early on how food carries story and how powerful they can be.
Well, sometimes when fancy people talk about food, it can be very classist and like esoteric, kind of alienating. But you have created this kind of food community, and you center curiosity, accessibility, inclusivity. And some people call you the fairy godmother of the LA food scene as a result of that. So can you talk about why that's been important to you, like inclusivity and bringing people in?
So I grew up in Silver Lake in the 60s, a very, very, very different place
I was going to say,
than it is now. It was...
no Erewhon to speak.
No.
Oh my gosh. It's like, I mean, it stayed similar for so long because it's so geographically kind of in its own little kind of hidden area. But Los Feliz, Silver Lake, and Echo Park was my hood. And I went to public school because everybody went to public school. And I have never had a more diverse experience in my life than heretofore than I did growing up at that time in that place. And it's not just all of the ethnic diversity, racial diversity, religious diversity, but it was also the economic diversity of everybody going to public school. So you would have kids of gardeners and janitors going to school with kids of doctors and judges. And we would all go over to each other's house after school. And early on, I became a voyeur. I think that kind of goes along with being an only child. And I was just fascinated how people lived in these houses where different languages were spoken. And you would walk into the house and the houses smelled different. And so I just think that my food embrace, or my embrace to people through food, has always been very wide because that's how I grew up.
Speaking of, well, so we talked about cookbooks a little bit, but here's a question for you. Do you follow any of the food trends on TikTok?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this
I
is terrific.
spend way too much time on
Which
TikTok.
which are you into?
I have to say that I have a little bottle of eye drops.
Stop from when you've scrolled too long?
Yeah.
Stop it, Evan Kleinman.
It's
No,
terrible.
ma'am.
It's really
Gosh.
terrible. And I have to set a timer.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so what draws you down the rabbit hole?
Well, the thing I love about TikTok, my For You page, is just people. It's that same thing. It's the same thing of my childhood, only
Right.
expanded throughout the world and throughout all the states. And so that voyeur in me of just listening to people and, quote, meeting people that I would never meet in my daily life,
Right.
who share little snippets, is just endlessly not just fascinating, like looking at a, insect like pinned down on a sheet of paper, but just life affirming. It really makes me feel better in these times of feeling so like horrified and scared so much of the time. And food on TikTok, I really try and be careful because the algorithm of TikTok is so incredibly tight and responsive. I'm not really interested in having being inundated with food on TikTok.
Right.
So I'm extremely careful.
You have to be. If not, you'll have nothing
Oh my
but
gosh.
posts of people smearing raw meat on the counter and trying to make some sort of monster meatloaf
Yeah.
Yeah.
that clearly has all sorts of bacteria in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that can be too much. Having said that, though, I make recipes. I have incorporated recipes into my daily repertoire that I've gotten from TikTok.
Really?
Yeah.
Like which
What?
ones?
Or like tell us so we can do it too.
Well, the first one was from Unicorns in the Kitchen, and it's barbari bread. So it's a Persian flatbread, and her recipe was just so easy to make, and I make it a lot. Another one that I did that became a pandemic staple for me during lockdown from Salty Cocina was making flour tortillas with cream cheese.
Wow.
Like, who knew? For me, it kind of like broke that mental barrier of, no, I can't really make these and roll them out and have them come out good and have them stay good for a couple of days.
Right.
That just like cracked the code for me. It was perfect. Who else? Recently, I learned about this cabbage salad or cabbage chip kind of just snack from a Japanese woman named Sugi. And it's just this simple mixture of cabbage that you throw some dashi, some garlic powder, some salt, a couple of other things on it, put it in a Ziploc bag, move it around, and then put it in a bowl, and then you can just snack on that.
Oh.
Oh, I'm hungry.
So good. That is like really, really addicting. And then there's this young man who I'm not sure what his name is. Maybe somebody will tell me after this if it's Logan or if it's Justin from Ottawa, this younger kid who is not Korean, but he cooks like a Korean grandmother. And I love watching his videos.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, good. So we have new follows.
Oh, yes, definitely. What's an ingredient you cook with that you never thought you'd cook with?
That's really hard because I've been cooking for like 65 years.
So what's the newest one that you've added to your...
Yeah.
That you,
I mean, the condiment situation is constantly getting out of control. And yesterday I interviewed Pierre Thiam, who's this amazing Senegalese chef and cooking personality who concentrates on the cooking of West Africa. And every time I see a West African cookbook come across my door, so to speak, I always feel like I want to go on those websites and just buy all those condiments. And I have not done it because I'm like, oh my God, more condiments. But I think I'm actually going to pull the trigger this time, and I'm going to get like egusi, the melon seeds, and I'm going to get different spice blends so that I can make some of his food. I mean, things I have... During the pandemic, about 20 young chefs sent me their chili crisp.
Wow, it's a lot of chili crisp.
Well,
Yeah.
it was a pivot, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They were all trying to make money. And in the end, I ended just putting them all together in one jar.
Whoa.
I'll never be able to repeat how good that chili crisp
It was the
is.
Avengers Endgame of
Exactly.
chili crisps.
Exactly.
Every
It's like
single
the
character.
Voltron of chili crisps.
Spider-Man's in here.
Yeah.
We got Iron Man.
Catwoman.
We got... Wait, that's the wrong universe.
Whatever.
Yeah, like seafood, mushrooms. I mean, yeah. But I just use so much of everything. I can't think of something that is really
Chili
new.
crisp stew is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's good on ice cream. It's good on noodles and with butter.
It's good on eggs.
It's really good on eggs. I also am devoted to pomegranate molasses.
Oh, yeah. I used that. I made buffalo this past Friday. I cooked like a buffalo tenderloin, bison
Oh,
tenderloin.
wow.
And I used pomegranate molasses in the reduction.
Oh, that sounds
It
wonderful.
was great. It's the first time I've ever done it.
Yeah, everybody who uses quote balsamic vinegar, which isn't balsamic vinegar, whatever, in their braised reductions should really switch to pomegranate molasses.
Oh,
You
wow.
heard it here first.
Also, cocktails.
Oh,
Yes, I have.
What?
I have done that. Because it's like you just shake it up with like a little tequila and put it on ice.
So good.
Oh my goodness.
So good.
Well, I know what I'm having this evening. Okay, so do you have a summer garden?
I shouldn't laugh. I've gone through so many iterations of gardens in my life because I've been living in the same place for years. I at one point had a little mini orchard in the backyard, but it became a rat buffet. Hashtag Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So I tore it out, and at the beginning of the pandemic, when I was like sitting, in my place looking out at the garden, it was like looking out at a prison yard. Mm-hmm. I mean, dead dirt, dirty, horrible concrete block fence. And I decided that I would put in a native flower garden because, water.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not such a good gardener that I want to waste all that water, and I can go to a farmer's market. But I do grow tomatoes in containers every summer, cucumbers, and peppers. Those are the triads.
Yeah, I found in California those are the three that kind of
That can
take off.
survive.
Yeah.
I'm gonna plus one to the wildflower garden. So like we rent, we don't own our house, but we have this like area in between the sidewalk and the street that was just like a dog bathroom when we first moved in. and before like winter hit last year, I surrounded it with like a little wire fence, and I just mixed up a bunch of wildflower seeds with some dirt. I just threw it there, and I was like, what's gonna happen? And it grew. I have like
Isn't
a little
that the greatest feeling?
I have like a little meadow now, and there's so many bees and butterflies, and it used to be just like and people stop and take pictures and look at it, and
It's so life affirming. Every morning I get my coffee, I go outside, and I look at the minutia of what's happened since the day before.
I do the same thing. I do exactly the same. I'm like, ooh, these little poppies are coming up. Like, ooh.
I got one black raspberry this year.
Wow.
And I've nurtured it, and then the bunnies ate it, and that was fine.
But that means you're going to get a lot more next
Fingers
year.
crossed. It's my black caps are my favorite.
I mean, I have this blood orange tree that I planted a long time ago. One New Year's Eve, I bought all these citrus trees to give away as gifts to staff, and for 10 years there was no fruit. And I have a friend who's just an incredible rare fruit tree grower in her backyard, and she said, "You need to pull out that tree. It's a fruit tree. If it's not giving you fruit, forget about it." And she said, "Well, you know what you could do? You could try beating on it with a shovel." She said, "I've heard that will make them start to bear fruit."
And
So I had a friend come over and beat the heck out of it with the shovel. And then the next year, one branch got flowers and gave me blood oranges. And then the year after that, the entire tree.
Wow.
Now it's 30 feet tall.
beat your fruit trees.
Eat your fruit. You heard it here first.
We are breaking news today all over the place.
I think it goes into like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. I better pump out, life before
Right.
I go.
Right. It was like me when I
That's
turned
like
37.
evergreen trees.
When
They
I-
get stressed, and they have tons of pine cones when they're really stressed.
Right.
So
go.
Right. I was stressed out. I'm like, I'm getting old. I'm 37. Time to have a baby. And I did.
yeah.
So there you
See?
go.
Okay, you're not getting old.
No, well, I'm 40 now, so she's like almost 2.
I'm not getting, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go there. I will just have decades on you. Decades. Mastery is a beautiful thing in life. We talk about mastery, but we often don't connect it to age. And the word wisdom seems to hold a lot of crone-like things for women. Mm-hmm. Mastery.
Mastery.
Yeah.
It's our new word.
We got it.
We have it. Okay, so Evan, before you go, we love KCRW and we love public radio. Is there a way our audience can support you and your show?
Oh my gosh, you are a queen to ask me this question.
We've been following the fundraising drive.
Queen, NPR stations have these fundraising drives, and they're really important, especially now when we are at risk of losing federal funding more than we ever have been. And although we rely more on people to give, that federal funding is something stable that we rely on. And we do rely on actual humans who listen. So if anybody wants to support the show, you can go to kcrw.com/join and join at any level. We will inundate you with merch. And I mean, KCRW is such an amazing station for how it goes out in the world to engage community. I mean, there's over 250 music events a year. And, you know, we have our huge pie contest at UCLA
Yes.
In the spring. And 10,000 people came to the last one.
Whoa.
We only planned for 5. So
Oh my
My
God.
God, you're like
You had
Lollapalooza.
to, you had to cut the pies into twice as many pieces.
it was like, uh-oh. And then we have our tortilla contest coming up, which I do with Gustavo Arellano.
Oh my gosh.
And that is just so much fun. 4 of us have been tasting tortillas for a couple weeks now. We start with 64.
Oh wow, just like the NCAA tournament.
Exactly,
Whoa,
it's a bracket.
Sweet 16.
Yeah.
It's a
Nice.
bracket. And then we're going to have the actual tournament at the beginning of October at the finals, and that'll be at Smorgasburg.
Awesome.
Oh my goodness, I'm so hungry now.
I know.
only ate a Starbucks wrap on the way here, which I regret.
And I haven't eaten anything.
Oh no.
I haven't either.
But you were talking to your previous guest the words hot dog.
Yeah. And did you start?
Well, I'm such a suggestive eater. Like, it's
Yeah.
going to be an earworm now until I go eat a hot dog.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think I want a hot dog too, but Chicago style with the pickle and
The best.
I
Yeah,
agree. I
that's
agree.
Where do you get those?
I don't know. I have not found them in LA.
Yeah, I was
gonna
in
have-
Chicago recently, and I got to have a really great one while being, showered with insults. It was
Wiener
wonderful.
Circle.
Yeah, it was
Wiener
the
Circle.
greatest.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
I've been there too, and I made it out alive, and I was like, this hot dog tastes even better after I got yelled at,
Absolutely.
which is weird, and maybe I should bring this up with my therapist. Evan Kleinman, thank you so much. We loved having you. This
Thank
is a
you
great
so
conversation.
much.
You should come back. We'll have
Please
more
come
I would
back.
love it. I would love it. So much fun.